It's about discipline and dedication and routine. I'm going into a different estate one day and then a different estate the other day. I've got to exist. That's a cultural thing, and that's something that communities need to address. What value do we place on certain things? And they told me that they were only looking for exceptional players at the time. I still remember it now. 13-year-old to hear that you're not exceptional, I just thought, okay, well, maybe not good enough for that level. But I continued playing. Never thought that I was never good enough. I was always taught you are good enough. Scott Parker, he's had an incredible career, and he was just a monster on the pitch. Playing against Man United, Cristiano Ronaldo was playing right wing. And again, I was just thinking, please, just don't come over here.
Don't switch.
Just stay over there. Yeah, I'll say it. We were so talented. We were naive in thinking that talent is all that you need, or because we were talented in our area or our team, we thought it was enough. It's about looking forward as well.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Coach Gerald Lami podcast. Myself, Coach Gerald Lami. Today, I've got a special guest, okay, someone that's played at a high level, played against the elite of elites, doing his own thing at the moment, trying to promote positive stuff for the youth. So we'll get into that a bit later on. But today, I want to introduce Osei Sankofa. Welcome, Osei. Thanks for coming on the platform.
How you doing? Good to have you here. Good to speak to you.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it, man. How you been during this time? How you been keeping busy? I see you've been doing your beach runs as well.
Yeah, I've had to try and train in a slightly different way with the gyms being shut. But now the gyms are open, to be fair, I'm back in there. I was back in the gym this morning, which I like doing. And to be honest, lockdown, like for a lot of people, they've been able to try and start doing different things with their life. You know, fortunately, my work situation was stable. It's meant I've got a lot of time on my hands. I've been going for walks like everybody, finding out about my local area and doing different things. Set up the social media page to, as you said, try to reach out to young players to give them some advice on how they can prolong and progress their careers. So it's been good for me. It's been very productive, to be honest, and it's been a good period for me.
No, amazing, man, amazing. And like you said, in terms of like obviously the lockdown, gyms have been closed. You know, I can see you're a man that likes to keep fit, and obviously in your background coming from football, etc. Like, how important is keeping in shape for you, and is it more so like on a physical level, but also on a mental side as well?
Yeah, it's important for lots of different reasons. I think when I first, started really getting into my fitness, it was maybe about 5 years ago, and I'd stopped playing football, so I wasn't getting any sort of physical activity. And like most men growing up, you want to kind of see how big and strong you can get at some point, and that's where I got to. So I thought, right, I'm not playing football. I don't need to be like at a very slim weight. I can actually bulk up and see what my body's capable of. So that's how it started. I just wanted to see what my body could do. So I'm probably 10 kilograms heavier than I was when I played. So that's most people that know me as being quite a slim man. That's my natural build, but been able to build up my body. And then second of all, it's about discipline and dedication and routine. It helps me to structure my day. I can get up, do a workout. I've already achieved something with the day, and then I can go on to complete my other tasks. And thirdly, especially with setting up this page, where I'm trying to be a positive example to young players, I have to look the part. So I can't be saying to players, you need to be fit and strong, and I'm not doing it. Just because I've had a career, it's not an excuse. I'm still young enough and fit enough to do it, so I do it. And I try and show them that, this guy would be at the end of his career if he was still playing, and he's still doing it. What excuse have I got as an 18, 19-year-old player? That's part of it as well. So all of those reasons are what motivates me every day to try and do some type of physical fitness. And hopefully one day it leads to, I want to do a marathon one day. Like I've got all sorts of things that I want to do. At the moment I'm in this phase, but it will go into different areas.
No, that's powerful, man. So before, obviously, I just want to get it like here at the beginning, so what people are listening, in terms of the page that you're doing at the moment. Again, just talk us through about the page. Obviously, we'll put the links below in the description and everything. But like, where did the inspiration come from? Like, what's the page about, and where do you see it going?
Yeah, I've always wanted to work with players, hence like being a coach. So going through the coach education pathway, I've coached at various different clubs at different levels. I've got my A license. Coaching at senior football is something that I've experienced in non-league, and it's something that I might go back into at a professional level someday if an opportunity comes up. So people have always asked me, like, what are you going to do? Are you going to be a coach? Are you going to be an agent? Are you? And I don't really know is the answer, but I know I want to do something with players. I feel that when I was playing the game as a young boy, I had lots of good pros around me. I had lots of good examples, but I never had someone that consistently got their arm around me and said, okay, Osei, listen, if you want to play the game for 20 years, you need to start doing X, Y, and Z. If you want to play the game for 20 years, if you don't do these things, it's not going to happen for you. So I'm now being that person that I wish that I had. That's what I'm trying to do at this stage. Now, where it eventually branches off to, players are asking me for advice every day in DMs. People are telling me about where they're thinking about moving for a next transfer. I feel that I've got a lot to give on that front, and a business might come out of it. But at the moment, I'm just happy to, as I said, daily, just dropping little gems in there for them. Hopefully they can understand what I'm saying. If not, they can DM me. That's what I'm trying to focus as well. But I just think if I can just keep drip feeding it, eventually the message will drop. And as I said, I'm trying to do that because I feel that I would have massively benefited from it. Even though I got to the level that I did, I still would have benefited from that.
No, for sure, man. And again, like, we spoke about it just before we got live as well, like in terms of your videos, like for me personally, it's powerful. Definitely, again, like myself as well, going through the system, I never had that coach that would say, maybe do it this way, maybe do it that way. It's like, I feel maybe coaches back in the days, I might be wrong, but I never came across a coach that was like ahead of their time in terms of like the mental side of the game. Maybe tactically they were, very, very good. But when it comes to that side of the game, I think it's only recently that, there's more of a limelight to it, So again, going back to your page is like, again, we'll put it in the description below. But yeah, it's powerful. And we need more of that.
Yeah,
and
just on that point, sorry, just on that point that you was making, like, I think especially for people from ethnic minorities that have come over to this country, we never really necessarily had that culture of how understanding the culture of how football works in this country. So a lot of the like let's say white boys that were born in this country, like their whole family are football mad. Their uncle's football mad, their dad's football mad. Like their dad sets up their own football team for their son to play. Like we come over. My dad came over when he was 6 years old. My grandparents are all from Jamaica. Like we come over and people are just looking a job just to pay some bills. It wasn't even a thing that football could be a really good career that can take you out of the hood and build a life for yourself. So all these little things about the game, we didn't understand. We were just playing because we were talented. We didn't understand the other side of the game. So that's what I'm trying to do. Everyone's got coaching qualifications. Everyone's doing sessions. But are people giving you insight into, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that's how coaches and managers view players. I'm sort of trying to come at it from a different angle with the experience that I have, because I know there are a lot of people out there. Say dad's left the house and it's just mum, and mum doesn't know about football. Well, who's going to teach you all these little tricks? There's no one.
Of course.
So I'm trying to fill the void.
No, that's powerful. And like you said, like even I can relate to that because obviously we came from Albania when I was 8, and it's like I was doing well when I was like 10, 11, 12, and I was getting scouted, but my dad was never around. He was always trying to obviously make things happen because we need food on our table. So my mum, again, she'll be the same, but there will be times where I remember specifically there was a time I got scouted by an Arsenal scout as well. And obviously they can't approach me. They've approached my manager. They've given their card to my manager. My manager's given it to me to give to my mum. I've given it to my mum, and obviously at that time we was immigrants. So she was like, "What's this?" I said, "Mum, this is Arsenal. Like this is it. Like I need to go." She's like, "No, like we can't because we don't know who these people are." Blah blah. Obviously, she's coming from a fearful point of view because obviously she's just trying to make ends meet. She's not trying to bring attention to herself, and it's like there was no one there to say, "You know what, Mum, don't worry about it. This is an opportunity. This might be the opportunity for you guys to stay here." Do you know what I mean? And he might just go into different spaces. So again, it's like you opening up that platform, maybe not to that extreme what I just explained anyway, but it's like it's needed. That's what's needed in the game, and it needs to be more pure people like yourself that's going to offer these advices. And one thing that I like about your platform, where it's like the message isn't long. It's like to the point. This is what it is. Like, I'm not spoon feeding you and trying to baby you. This is the situation. This is real life. Do you know what I mean? So if you want to take in information, then so be it. But yeah, man, it's powerful, bro. And keep going, man. Keep going. But one thing again, like you spoke about, obviously your family, your dad coming over, etc. You know, I'm a firm believer of like your early years are your foundation, your building blocks, you know, to where you are now. Whether they'll be good or bad. Like in terms of where you grew up in your environment and your household, what was that like for you?
It will be very similar to your listeners, and maybe even similar to you. I grew up. I had both my parents in my life. My mum and dad separated when I was 5, but I had both my parents, and I think just that alone was huge for me. I appreciate that so much as I get older. I lived sort of all over South London. So I was born Guy's Hospital, London Bridge. My mum had the council house in Bermondsey. My dad lived in a council estate in Waterloo. So I lived out of those 2 homes for like the first part of my life. Then we moved to Peckham. Then we moved to Streatham. Then we moved to Brixton. So I think in a previous life, I must have been a traveller. We was always on the move. Because you got to go where the council accommodation takes you. And you know, if you have another brother or sister, you get an extra bedroom. So we was always on the move. But I didn't see it as a thing growing up, because kind of everyone was like that. Everyone's family was a bit, you know, dysfunctional. And I had 2 really good parents that raised me well. Like, I loved my childhood. We didn't have hardly anything. Like many people growing up, you know, I remember the electric running out and regularly, and like going like take pocket money to go and top up the meter and stuff like that. But you know, that was life back then. That was everyone was struggling, everyone was hustling to try and, as you say, put food on the table. But one thing that was always stressed on me is that, you know, you still got to be the best at school. You still got to get out and be a happy kid and go and play out and do all that stuff. So we was encouraged. I loved my childhood. I loved it. I wouldn't have had it any other way. And seeing those harder times and the friendships that I built at that young age has led me to be the man that I am today. So my foundation, it was tough, but I always say that the tough love, the tough foundation is the best foundation.
For sure. What's the most important lesson that you learned? Obviously, going to these different areas, like anyone knows Peckham and Brixton and those areas, like you learn so much from those upbringings and them different experiences that you go through living in those areas. What would you say is the most valuable experience that you've got from, you know, living in those surroundings?
I think just you saying that, I think one thing that I've maybe developed along the way, or definitely developed along the way, is how to adapt to my environment. You know, I'm going into a different estate one day and then a different estate the other day. I've got to exist. I wasn't one of these people that got sucked into the road life. I nearly did, and I got beat up one day. I got punched up one day, and then that made me realize I don't even need to be on the road with my friends, let alone doing any other kind of badness. But yeah, just adaptability. And again, especially with the school that I went to, I had people that was proper posh, middle class. But I grew up in a primary school in Brixton where everyone was literally from the council estate across the road. So I had that spectrum of people that I was meeting all in the early part of my life. So I could adapt to, okay, that's how these people are living, and this is how I'm living. And I was able to kind of fit in and adapt to all of that. And I sort of, my eyes were wide open to it, and I took it all on board, and it's helped me to build good relationships with anybody. You put me in front of, probably a bad example, but you put me in front of the Prime Minister, he'll like me. He'll like me. You put me in front of someone in the hood, they'll like me because I've got that adaptability. So I never thought that I was never good enough. I was always taught you are good enough, and you're good enough because you're smart and because you're a good person, you've got good morals and all of those things.
That's powerful. And again, was that subconsciously where you was able to adapt yourself, or was it something that you probably learned from someone, or how did that come about, the adaptability?
I think it just happened. Like my dad's like a historian. He loves it. So all like school reports, he still got all of them. I've got school reports to me when I was 5 years old, and it says stuff like Osei's really smart. Osei's really clever. Osei is very sensible. Osei always thinks things. And it's weird looking back because that's how I am now. And it's like, I was already like that at 5. My brother, my closest brother, who is 9 months younger than me.
Okay.
9 months. He is 18 months younger, sorry. 18 months younger than me. We have completely different personalities.
Yeah.
But we raised exactly the same way. My older brother, who's 10 years older than me, my mum had to put him into a home when he was 15.
Okay.
So we're completely different. So I think that was just how I adapted for whatever reason. That's just how my brain worked.
No, that's powerful. And again, it's like, what's interesting about what you just said in terms of your younger brother and yourself, like you grew up in the same household, but your mindset is different. Like, again, for the younger listeners that are tuning in, for me, like, it depends. Again, it's like that saying, is the cup half full or is it half empty? It's like the way you see things is your perspective. It's not necessarily your surrounding. Because even myself is like, I always thought, this doesn't define me. These cancer estates don't define me. My mind is in a different place. Now, for me, it was easy to think like that. But for some people, it's like, you don't understand. Like, you're able to go to different places and just make friends and things like that. Like you said, being adaptable. Now, can someone learn how to be like that? Or is it a thing where you just either have it or you don't?
I think your eyes need to be open to it. So a big part of being able to adapt is obviously having confidence in yourself and having self-esteem. I was always one of the smartest people in the class. Now, growing up for a young black boy in Brixton to be the smartest in the class, that's not always looked upon as being a good thing. It's like, oh, you're a neek, or you're soft because you're smart. So I could read, like, even when I was young, people say, oh, I'll say, like, you talk properly, you pronounce your T's and all this sort of stuff when I was in school. So I had that to deal with, but because I was also the best at football, can't talk to me.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky. So I'm lucky that I had those. I had those two things. I could get respect from the smart people, and I can get respect from the people that want to play ball. So I'm lucky that I was even like multi-talented in that respect. So I don't know what my dad put in the water, but I just had those two things there. Had I been just good at the studies, maybe I wouldn't have been as adaptable, in the environment where I actually lived. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's important that for parents, even though I'm not a parent, I would imagine it's important for parents to make sure your child tries a bit of everything and you do what you can to build up their self-esteem for things that they've earned, not just bigging them up just because they're your child, bigging them up because you know what, you've done well at school this week and you're top of the class and you tidy your room and you do everything properly. That builds up self-esteem, and that's something I've always had. I've never doubted myself because I've always had that confidence because of what I've done.
No, for sure, man. And like you said, once you're a baller, you're accepted in the hood, boy.
But this is the thing. So we're talking about that adaptability. I'm not naive. So let's say I wasn't good at football. How do I get the respect of my peers in the ends? It's hard.
It is hard.
For most people to get that respect, you've got to be a bad man to get that respect. You see? So it's tough.
It is tough. It's definitely tough. And not everyone can do that lifestyle. A lot of people think that they can do that lifestyle in terms of trying to be the baddest guy on the road. But like my dad always said to me, there's always someone that's going to be badder. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, where do you draw that line? Do you know what I mean? But in terms of your
foot... The crazy thing about that is that it's always been the elders, not the people your age. The elders will always respect the ones who are good at school. The elders will always respect the ones that go on a different path. It's those ones that are the same age, that peer group pressure that try and feel small for like doing something different. So I think the elders need to, check those ones that are doing that. There's different pathways to making it.
No, for sure, man, for sure. And that's another thing as well. Like, to be honest with you, obviously when I went into secondary school, I wasn't the flyest guy. Do you know what I mean? I had like spots. Like, I was going to school with shoes or white socks, like a little bit, some jack up. So I wasn't the flyest. It's only like when I got to like year 8, and I started kicking ball and people started realizing, hey, this guy's actually a baller. That's when I started getting, into like groups and things like that. But prior to that, my grades were really, really good because I was just focused on my grades. It's only once I started getting that recognition from the rest of the schools, like my grades started going down because I was like, you don't get respect for being the smartest in the class. You're getting respect because you're a baller. So like you said, it's so hard to kind of find that balance. And especially these days as well with like social media and everything that comes with it. It's like, for me personally, I feel like there's more pressure these days.
It's much worse now.
Like I can only imagine.
Much worse now.
I can only
like,
imagine.
You know, when we were growing up, you know, we only had to worry about, you know, if you got like a half decent pair of trainers. But now you got to have the most expensive trainers. You got to have the best phone. You got to, you know, it's been interesting just again on social media, just learning about how the youngsters even use their social media. Half of them don't even post any pictures. And I'd imagine that's because if you post something, you probably get bantered. They just have to take it down. So you can't even, it's like you can't be yourself. But that's a cultural thing. And that's something that communities need to address. What value do we place on certain things? Luckily for me, education was always valued and I was good at education. So that made me feel good. Football was valued by my peers and I was good at football. So that made me feel good. So having both those things, then you add in all the different environments that I was in. It just helped me and shaped me massively.
No, for sure, man, for sure. I think that's important, man. I think like having these classes in terms of how to use social media, how to handle these, you know, like getting feedback from social media is so important, man. Like, I think it's an ongoing process. And I think as we get on, I think we definitely, as you said, as a community, we need to help these youngsters going through these things. Because obviously we didn't go through it like social media, but if something happened, the word goes around quick. Don't worry about that. If something happened, everyone's going to know. So, but I want to touch on your career, like in terms of starting your career as well. Well, what was that journey like for you when you actually got signed for Charlton? Like, was there any pressures, or was it just a thing where if you make it, you make it?
Yeah, well, again, like most young boys and girls, I wanted to be a footballer. I've got, again, my dad, he got the letter that I've still got in my house, actually.
Okay.
I was 7 years, letter written, I was 7 years old. So my name is Osei. I'm 7 years old. And when I grow up, I want to be a footballer. I want to play for Arsenal. I want to play for England. So I already knew at that age what I wanted to do. But I thought it was like so unattainable because I just saw like Ian Wright gold tooth on the telly, scoring goals. I didn't know how I get from this front room to the pitch. I didn't know how to do it. There was no internet to like look at what people are doing. It was just, oh, that's what they do. But all the way through school, I was always that best in the class, best in the school. And I loved football. I just wanted to play for a team. I didn't care who it was. My first proper team was in Clapham Little League. We used to play on Saturdays. And the reason why I played on Saturdays because I wasn't allowed to play on Sundays because I had to go to church.
Okay.
And even though I was the best player, but my mum wouldn't let me play on Sunday because we have to go to church. So that was tough. Back then you had district football, and luckily district football was played on Saturdays because obviously the academies played on the Sundays. So when I now get picked for the South London district, and I'm like, all these boys are signed, and I'm as good as them. I was the captain or sometimes captain, so I thought, okay, I'm all right. I'm decent. My time will come. My time will come. I was captain of my school team, and my school was big. We had 250 in the year, so it was a big school.
Okay.
Yeah, it's big schools, and we were doing really well. One of the other boys in my team, a guy called Michael Gordon, which some people from my age group will remember. He was an incredible player at Arsenal at the time, and we were both as influential as each other for that team. So I knew my time would come. My time eventually came at under 13 with Chelsea.
Okay.
I could have gone to Mill at the time, but Mill was not a club my family appreciated back then, so we weren't going there. So we decided to go to Chelsea on trial, and it didn't work out. And they told me that they were only looking for exceptional players at the time. I still remember it now.
Wow.
So for a 13-year-old to hear that you're not exceptional, I just thought, okay, well, maybe I wasn't good enough. You know what I mean? Maybe not good enough for that level. But I continued playing because I just loved playing. I was never going to stop. I was still the best player in my school. My school used to win every single week. So carried on playing. And funnily enough, again, all about good relationships. My PE teacher was good friends with the academy manager at Charlton.
Okay.
So he's contacted him and said, listen, I've got a boy here, like you need to have a look at him. I went down there literally within 2 weeks. It was a completely different experience to the Chelsea experience. Charlton loved me. They signed me like on a pre-contract. So within 2 weeks of me being at the club, I'd signed the next 2 years as a schoolboy and then the next 2 years as a scholar. They just snapped me up straight away, which is I had my scholarship at under 14.
Yeah, that's rare.
It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. But I had that. That's the respect they had for me. And then, the first part of my career, a year later, I was playing for England. So, can you imagine my self-esteem? I'm playing on TV in a victory shield, doing good in school, flying in football. Like, self-esteem is just incredible. Do you know what I mean? No pressure. I loved the game and I was good at it. It was easy.
But look at that though, bro. Like in terms of the difference of you've gone to Chelsea, they've said they're only looking for exceptional players to the point where you've got yourself a contract that is rare at 13, 14 years of age to going to play for England. And again, I think that's an important lesson for anyone that's listening. Again, that things can change quickly as long as you're putting in the work. Do you know what I mean? As long as you're putting in the time and the graft and everything like that, things are going to change. And like you said, you kept going. You didn't stop. You know what I mean? You could easily have said, you know what? I'm probably not good enough. You know, if Chelsea's saying that to me, I'm probably not good enough. Do you know what I mean? And especially them times as well. Do you feel like, is it easier to get signed these days or back when you was coming up?
That's a tough question. Is it easier to get signed these days? It might be harder. I think everyone wants to play ball, and everyone's uncle's friend knows someone that works at a club. Do you know what I mean? So everyone's making calls all the time. Everyone's an agent. Everyone's touting a player here, touting a player there. It might be harder, but if you're good, I don't think it's hard. If you're really the best, it's not hard. It's players. For someone like me to wait till 14 to get into the system, that would never happen now, or very rarely happen now. They probably couldn't believe I landed on their doorstep. They got players in at 7, 8 years old now. So it probably is hard. There's probably more people trying to do it. So there's more for the clubs to sift out. You've got these development centres, like everyone's at it. It's non-stop. But I think if you are, especially with football, if you do have that talent, very few slip through the net at a youth stage. But youth stage and senior stage is completely different again. The game changes again. And that's where a lot of the boys from the area, how we grow up, that's where they make their biggest mistakes between 16 and 21. That's where, for people in general, but particularly the way we grow up playing football, you have to play a completely different style of football in those ages.
And talk to us about that, obviously, because you've experienced that. You've gone from youth and you've gone all the way to playing in the Premier League. So that transition from youth football to first team football, like, talk to us about that. What should these players that are coming into the game that might be on the brink, what advice would you give to them? What sort of things should they look out for?
Yeah, it's difficult. It depends sort of what club you're playing at. It depends how you've been brought up to play. I'll give an example, because I was thinking about this earlier. You know, my team at Charlton, we were a very good side. We got to the semi-final of the FA Youth Cup, so we were a decent side. We would win most weeks. And the way you're brought up to play football is you pass the ball, you roll it around the back, like proper academy football. You're playing on carpets with good players. And because my team were good, we had the ball most of the time. Then you get into the first team. I'm at Charlton. We were a mid-table side, so we haven't got the ball most of the time. And we're not dominating possession, so you're having to play a completely different style of football. So it comes back to that adaptability. You might think you're a baller, and I've spoken about this in my videos. You might think you're a baller because you can do X, Y, and Z. Well, the manager doesn't want you to do that. The manager needs to get 3 points on a Saturday or Tuesday night, and there's certain things that you need to learn that's specific for your position that are proven and tried and tested in the culture of English football to get points. That's where we are at the moment. You know, football's 150 years old in this country, and long ball works. You might not like it, but
No, for sure, man.
So, yeah, adaptability.
No, for sure. And again, I think that key word adaptability is so important, so vital. Do you think having a right core of people around you will help you with that?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, to be honest. We, as a group of young boys coming up through the system, we were, I'll say it, we were so talented. We were so talented, but we were naive in thinking that talent is all that you need, or because we were talented in our area or our team, we thought it was enough. I say to these young players now, there's boys in South America, Eastern Europe, Africa, starving hungry, that will do anything to get what you've got, and you're here walking around like you've clocked life. You haven't even done anything. So yeah, having the right people around you and telling you exactly what you need to do at different stages is very important, because if you're going to rely only on your ability, the game will swallow you up, because it's too competitive. So competitive, you have to see things coming and make sure that you avoid the obstacles.
And I think that's powerful as well, what you said. But I think another piece of the puzzle, I think, is parents. Like, a lot of parents are deluded with, my son's playing for Chelsea XYZ, he's definitely going to make it. And then when they don't get their contracts or anything like that, it's like they feel disheartened and whatnot. But the harsh reality of the game is, like you said, is like you got players from Eastern Europe, Africa, South America, where these kids are hungry to come and take your place. Now, in terms of parents, what advice would you give to parents in terms of obviously going to these clubs, and what's the expectations?
Yeah, again, if you don't have a footballing background yourself, or you don't understand the ins and outs of the game, you need to find someone you can trust that does know the ins and outs of the game. It's hard because, as we know, players at Category 1 clubs, they've got agents hanging around. You've got agents offering parents money, offering to pay their mortgages. This is what's going on in the real game of football that obviously is not talked about. There's a lot of cash being passed around, and that for a parent is obviously very attractive. All they think is, all right, I'm getting my mortgage paid, and my boy's signing for Chelsea. All looks good, and they think that he's just going to get older and older, and then eventually he'll just be in the first team. But football doesn't work like that, because the club's got their list of targets. They're constantly looking at trying to get better players in, and it's a numbers game for these clubs. For the club to put you on a contract, even if it's a decent contract, it's not money for them. They can afford to do that, and it's a gamble that doesn't quite pay off. A lot of these young players, they're built up from such a young age to believe that they're going to be the next best thing, that they're going to be, that they're going to be a great player and play for England and play for 20 years in the Premier League, and they think it's just going to happen because they're going to get older, so they're naturally going to improve and they're naturally just going to get into the first team. But football doesn't work like that, as we know, because football clubs have their list of transfer targets. The manager might get sacked, and the manager who liked you is no longer at the club anymore, and the new manager comes in and he's got a youngster that he prefers from a different club. I've experienced all of this, so I think parents need to get someone in that understands the game of football and isn't going to just tell them what they want to hear. A big part of what I'm trying to do is, I'm not really trying to tell you what you want to hear. I'm trying to tell you what you need to hear, and then it's up to you if you want to take that on board. And I think those are the people you always want. People that are honest around you. If you don't want people who are honest, then you're going to get lied to. It's quite simple, and it's a tough game, but the most rewarding game if you can crack it.
What's your take on like agents for young players? Would you recommend that? Because obviously, like you're saying, you need someone that's in the game, that knows the game. It depends on which agent you're going to, but what's your recommendation in terms of young players and going into a partnership with agents?
A good agent can be worth their weight in gold. A good agent, but it's very difficult to tell who a good agent is until you really need them. That's the point. And as I said, the game is so competitive. I've heard some agents say the agent's only as good as the player. Which might sound obvious, but when they come and sit down in front of your parents with the portfolio and the suit, they don't tell you that. They tell you that, we've got these clients, and they make you feel like you're going to go and have the same career as them just because. I've heard of agents saying, I've got a pool of players, I've gone fishing on these players, and one of them will make it, so it's fine. I only need one player.
Mm-hmm.
So because there's so much money in the game, it's obviously going to attract cowboys. It is.
Mm-hmm.
There's money to be made.
Mm-hmm.
But no, a good agent is definitely worth their weight in gold.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't say that one person is a better agent than another person, because
Mm-hmm.
you could then find another player that says, well, I had a bad experience with that agent.
Yeah.
It just depends. I've had all of those top agents come to my house. I've been represented by some of these top agents. When I really needed them, they weren't there for me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe by that stage, I'd let myself down as a player, perhaps. But for me, the role of an agent should have been in 6 months earlier. They should have said, Osei, you need to be careful, because if you don't start doing this, this, and this in 6 months' time, that's going to happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see a lot of that taking
Mm-hmm.
place, or hearing a lot of that taking place of agents. They just
Mm-hmm.
drop a player when they're no longer valuable.
Mm-hmm. What something that was quite interesting to me in terms of like regrets, and people is like, would you say there's any regrets that you've had during your time as a professional footballer?
No, I don't like the word regrets. That's just a personal thing.
Yeah.
There's obviously things that I could have done differently
Mm-hmm.
and should have done differently. And looking back, I probably had a couple of opportunities to rectify or to change the direction that my career went in.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the same in life. There's things in life where I really shouldn't have done that. I could have gone in this direction. But hindsight's a wonderful thing. Everything that I did, I wanted to do at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So to say I regret it, no. I think it's all part of my journey. It's all part of my story, and I can't complain. I've played in the Premier League. I can't complain. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, that letter that you wrote when you're 7 years old, you definitely achieved it. So that how is that as well, to look back at that at 7 years old when you wrote that, and to be at the age that you are now, to say, you know what, I've accomplished playing for England, I've accomplished playing in the Premier League, I've accomplished playing against some of the best players in history ever. Like how satisfying is that to you personally?
Obviously, I know that it's a big achievement to the everyday person, but I don't see it as like the best thing I've done in my life, because I believe that I deserve to be there. I believe that I should have been there. I believe that I should have done a lot more. So yeah, I know it's an amazing achievement, but as I said, it's just part of my life. I look at football as a world away. It was just I was a different person. I'm a completely different person now. Like, if I look back, I look at pictures when I was 18 running out at Old Trafford. Like, I don't even know that person. I'm a different person. So it's just something that I probably other people want to talk about it more than me. It's just something that's been part of my life. I've been lucky enough to experience it, and I want to try and tell that story, but build another chapter as well. It's about looking forward as well.
No, for sure. Before we wrap things up, I want to get into a quick fire round question with you. But just before we get into that, is there any last words or advice that you would want to give to young players, or just youngsters in general? Because I don't want to just categorize it and just say footballers, but just youngsters in general that are coming through, and going through their adolescence. Like, what advice would you give to them?
My advice would be, just don't follow the crowd. Like, do your own thing. Not in a selfish way, but in a, if there's something you like, be yourself, and go and be the best you can in that. Go and find out everything you need to know to go and be the best in that. Just because everyone in the ends is doing music doesn't mean you have to do music. Just because everyone in the ends is playing football doesn't mean you have to play football. If you want to geek out and go and be good at computers, go and be good at computers. Just don't get trapped, because if you're just going to do what the next person is doing and that's what they're really good at, and you're trying to emulate them, you're going to fail. You need to do what you need to do. That's probably what I would say, and then find out how to do you by surrounding yourself with the right people. And be adaptable, man. Try different things. Keep trying different things. You never know what's going to drop for you. When I was 18, I didn't think I'd be even coronavirus. Who thought this could happen? Like, you never know what's going to happen in life. So just be adaptable. Like, always be willing to do different things, to try different things.
Nah,
do
powerful.
what's passionate for you. Do what means something in your chest. And do something that means something to you.
Powerful, bro. Powerful message, man. So just a quick fire round question. I know, like you said, we're on the time limit here, but just a quick one. Best player that you've played with?
Best player played with would on the same team as would be Scott Parker. Be just before he got his move to Chelsea. People might look at him and think, oh, like Scott Parker. Yes, Scott Parker. He's had an incredible career and he was just a monster on the pitch. He could do everything. He was Superman. He was the best way to describe it. For Charlton, he was like Steven Gerrard.
That's what he
was for us. So when I say it like that, people might understand a bit better.
What made him so good though, in terms of like just again his mindset and as a character?
He was a monster. He was an absolute. He was a monster to the point where I remember before games, I used to see him taking pills before games. I used to see him taking like half a dozen pills. I don't know what he was taking, but when he went out on the pitch, he was a lunatic. He could dribble past everyone, smash everyone. He'd run. He was fitter than everyone. He was just a warrior and a competitor, and he was like that every single day. It was crazy. He was a.
And he's into management as well at the moment. Like, do you feel like he's going to go all the way like he did with his playing career?
I think he will. I think obviously having the career he's had and he's educated himself and he's in that circle. He's already in that environment. This season will have been amazing for him with the experience of managing in the Championship, which is a tough league. The Championship's probably harder than the Premier League. But everything that goes on around it. He'll get the Charlton job one day, for example. So yeah, he will be a manager. How good he gets, I don't know, because I've not seen him coach, but he will have a career in management for sure.
Perfect. I know you played against a couple of elite ballers. I see you put up Henry the other day. He's trying to shield you off. But toughest opponent you've come up against?
Toughest opponent? Well, I'll tell you just briefly because you mentioned Henry. The night we played against Arsenal, I'm not going to lie, I was scared.
What?
At that point, I was playing right back, and we all know Henry used to like to come out on into that channel. I just thought, you know what, I just don't need it. I just don't need it. But luckily, he was playing in first gear, so I didn't really have anything to worry about. Another time playing against Man United, Cristiano Ronaldo was playing right wing. And again, I was just thinking, please, just don't come over here.
Don't switch.
Just stay over there. But no, the toughest opponent was, I'd say, Ryan Giggs.
Okay.
For lots of different reasons. Obviously, he's a legend of the game, and we've all seen him run up and down the wing. But when you're playing against a team that dominates possession, as they had the ball the whole time, he's making runs here. He's doing opposite movement. He's got Paul Scholes that can spin the ball over your shoulder at any point. Giggs can dribble. He's got the ball stuck to his foot, and he's as quick with the ball as he is without the ball. There's just so much to process. And I was a decent 1v1 defender. I enjoyed the challenge. He was probably the only person, even at that level, that sort of twisted me inside out a few times. And I left that pitch thinking, okay, I understand. I understand now.
The levels.
Yeah, I understand.
But again, like on a serious note, though, obviously, you said coming up against Henry, you was thinking about it. But how do you prepare for those sort of games where like tomorrow I got to play against Ryan Giggs, I got to play against Henry? How do you prepare for those games? There's a certain way that you would, do, or
obviously there's an ego aspect to it, because I didn't tell anyone I was scared. But you go onto the pitch and we all watch football, we all watch Match of the Day. You're very aware of what he can do if he wants to. He's one of the best in the world. There's not much you can do to stop him by yourself unless you literally have the best game you've ever played in your life, or you have like a tactical plan to stop him. So like 3 people just come over to try and stop him. But if he's in the mood, there's not much you can do with those types of players. The only preparation you can do in terms of like a bit of muscle memory is you get like a player who kind of plays like them and you go against them in training. But apart from that, as I said, if he's on it at that level, even all the best defenders in the Premier League have said that. John Terry, they've all said it. Jamie Carragher, if he's in the mood, there's nothing you can do. You just got to hope he's not in the mood. He's a 6 or 7 out of 10 rather than 8 or 9.
And that's rare, boy. That's rare for him to have them days. But that's tough, man. Favorite manager you've played for?
Favorite manager, I have to say Alan Kirbishley, because he gave me my debut and he looked after me as a young boy. He was probably too good to me, to be honest. But he saw something in me, and he, played my biggest moment in my career was my debut at Old Trafford in front of 67,000 people. He gave me that because he saw something in me. So I'm always eternally grateful to him. And he saw something. He saw a vision, and just the way he was a good guy. He's a legend of the club. We were a mid-table side then, and I'd say he's my favourite. But I had decent coaches. Ian Dowie was good, good coach. People laugh at him, but he was a good coach. Alan Pardew, people laugh at Pards because of he's had a few failures, but I quite liked him as a person. Do you know what I mean? When you work with someone every day, it's different. A lot of armchair fans talking, but it's easy to talk. You're not there.
Powerful again, man. What's the best advice you've ever got?
Best advice? My assistant manager at Charlton, I didn't even understand the advice. I've spoken about it before. I didn't understand the advice. He said to me, Osei, every day you come to training, you need to take your aggression pill. That's the best advice. Because I was very talented, and again, how we grow up, we don't necessarily have that natural aggression in us. We're just especially black people, we're just kind of easy, easy go, laid back. And some people, they go on the pitch, they're a lunatic. That's what he was trying to say to me. He was like, you need to intensity in everything that you're doing, mindset, rock solid. I'll kill if I have to mindset. That's what he was trying to say to me. But I didn't know how to do that because it wasn't my personality. I've got more like that as I've got older because I can see what the real world is like. But when you're an 18-year-old who's already made his debut in the Premier League and who's playing for England, I'm obviously doing well. So why do I need to do all this other stuff that you're talking about? But that's maturity. But that's where I was. I understand it now.
Is that the aggression pill that Scotty Parker was taking?
Yes, 6.
Is that he's literally taking them?
It must have been. That's what he was taking.
Boy, last one, bro. Best lesson that you've learned in the last 6 months?
Best lesson I've learned in the last 6 months is to always trust yourself, and if you believe in something, just go for it. So pretty similar, but I've made some decisions that in hindsight, it's it's probably a poor decision, but I'm so confident in my decision making, I'm just going to go for it. And if it doesn't work, I blame myself. So trust yourself. It's your life. Trust yourself, back yourself, and go for it. Because if you have that belief, no one can really stop you. If you're serious and you have that belief, no one can stop you. It might take you a long time to get there, but no one can stop you.
Powerful, bro, man. Bro, I say, honestly, thank you again for your time and appreciate it. And again, there's so much gems that you dropped, and whoever's listening, we'll put down all the your links in the description below with all the stuff that you're doing, the good stuff that you're doing. So again, appreciate it. I wish you the best of luck, bro, going forward. And hopefully we can sit down as well in a different environment and just do this again, man.
For sure. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.